Let's get it.
Desde hace tiempo espero yo.
I'm a Puerto Rican from the diaspora. I want to see my island free, not now, but I order. My name rings bells from here to Yabacoa. I'm from Cleveland where it gets colder than Minnesota. This ain't no novella, my life is like a movie. I'm a revolutionary like my brother Subi. We do this for la patria, race against la máquina. Guns sound like reggaeton, the way it be like rakata. It's Spanish, I'm here to stay. When it comes to my people, I don't play. From day to night, night to day. It's in my veins, I got the blood of a slave. We freedom fighting all the way to the grave. I'm a young lord, Balante it's a slogan. Even a blind man can see that I am chosen. You can hate, but you will never ever stop my motion.
Tap that screen, y'all. Tap that screen. Tap that screen.
They say we come from garbage, that's the farthest from the truth. They don't have no clue, Tony Hicklin, fuck you. Fuck you too, if you believe that dumb shit. God sent me here to put the matrix in a glitch. Standing on the mound, I ain't giving up no hits. Leader of my team, no hitters when I pitch. And when I'm up the bat, guarantee I will not miss. Like number 21, I was born for this shit.
Oír tu voz, sentir tu amor. Desde hace tiempo espero yo. Me haces soñar que estás aquí.
Screaming free Puerto Rock, that shit'll never stop. Screaming free Puerto Rock, till my casket drop. The revolution now, you either ready or you not. I'm running to the front lines, I wanna pick my spot. I wanna stand for something, I don't wanna sit and watch. It's time to free our people from these chains and these locks. It's time to free our minds and stop thinking in a box. You with us or against us, if you not, then you ops. Uncle Sam and my Theo, Pico go home. Take Luma with you, leave us alone. Get the fuck out and don't come back. And take Mr. Jones cause he don't know how to act. Fuck Jake Paul, you go run and tell that. He's only on an island so he don't pay tax. We done being colonized, that's just facts. You part of the problem if you think I should relax.
Salute, 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 salute. Tap that screen. Tap that screen. Salute, salute, salute. Top of the afternoon, everybody. Welcome back. Oh, I got this on. My bad. Ooh, I had feedback coming back. But salute, everybody. Top of the afternoon. Welcome back to the AfroTaino Book Club. I think today we finally going to finish the Huey P. Newton Reader. We got about an hour. The book is about an hour left. And then we got like the forward and the introduction. We could probably skip the forward and the introduction, but let's get to the most important part, which is the final chapter. So if you guys could do me a favor, if this is your first time here, I do believe in socialism, free education, free housing, and free healthcare. So by tapping the screen and sharing this live, it's just showing me a little bit of socialist love and support to be able to get the message out to the masses. And without further ado, let's kick it off with the last chapter of the book, y'all. Thanks everybody for participating, and don't forget we're also live on YouTube. So if you guys could do me a favor, switch over, just go hit subscribe. So just in case you want to recap some of the stuff you missed if you wasn't able to stay through the whole live, or you want to catch up on the prior chapters, just do me a favor, jump over to YouTube, AfroTaino88, and hit subscribe. But without further ado, let's get right into it.
Response of the government to the Black Panther Party, 1980. A footnoted version of this selection is found in War Against the Panthers, a study of repression in America. Upon Richard M. Nixon's election as president in 1968, the administration addressed itself, in the words of former White House counsel John Dean, to the matter of how we can maximize the fact of our incumbency in dealing with persons known to be active in their opposition to our administration. Stated a bit more bluntly, how we can use the available federal machinery to screw our political enemies. A White House enemies list was drawn up by officials of the Nixon administration. In its original form, this list contained the names of only a few minority political parties or organizations, among them the Panthers, whom the administration linked with Huey Newton and George Wallace of the American Independent Party. Interestingly, though their expressed ideologies were quite opposite, both organizations shared the common feature of having strong grassroots support and active involvement by their members, in contrast to the established Democratic and Republican parties. The enemies list was then incorporated into a detailed plan, commonly known as the Huston Plan, after its White House designated coordinator, Tom Charles Huston. This plan was approved in 1970 by the former director of the FBI, J. Edgar Hoover, in cooperation with the Central Intelligence Agency, CIA, the Defense Intelligence Agency, DIA, and the National Security Agency, NSA. It advocated blanket presidential authorization for such practices as wiretapping, mail covers, and black bag jobs or break-ins. Its main purported function was to improve interagency cooperation among the major intelligence agencies. Although this proposed plan was first approved, but allegedly later disapproved by President Nixon because J. Edgar Hoover decided not to continue to cooperate, the tactics advocated had already been employed by various federal agencies, particularly the FBI, against the Panthers. Just why the FBI and other federal law enforcement agencies focused early on the party as an enemy organization is not difficult to understand. At the start of World War II, President Roosevelt directed the Bureau to refocus its resources on priorities it had purportedly given up in 1924, the investigation of political organizations and affiliations. Distinctions between foreign espionage and domestic dissident groups became blurred during the height of the war. In fact, vigilance and caution grew into xenophobia and distrust of anyone who veered noticeably from the political mainstream. The Cold War followed, with President Truman's establishment of the Federal Employee Loyalty Program. The Bureau, having built up a large contingent of agents to guard the nation's internal security, channeled them into loyalty security investigations. Thus, the FBI took on officially the role of a kind of ideological security police, an arbiter of what was inside the boundaries of legitimate political discourse and what was outside. In the absence of any effective challenge to this role, the Bureau continued essentially unabated. Not surprisingly, when the Panthers became publicly visible in 1967 and 1968, the FBI felt justified, if not compelled, to devote their full panoply of resources to investigating the organization. In part, this was in response to the BPP's ideology. As the chief of the FBI's counterintelligence program admitted in describing the genesis of the program within the Bureau that concentrated on the Panthers, "We were trying first to develop intelligence so we would know what they were doing, and second, to contain the threat, to stop the spread of communism, to stop the effectiveness of the Communist Party as a vehicle of Soviet intelligence, propaganda, and agitation."
Listen up.
A more flamboyant assessment was provided by Edward Miller, former assistant director of the FBI in charge of the Intelligence Division, upon his retirement in 1974. "Rome lasted for 600 years, and we are just coming on to our 200th. That doesn't mean that we have 400 to go. We have to step back and look at ourselves protectively. How much of this dissent and revolution talk can we really stand in a healthy country? Revolutions always start in a small way. Economic conditions are bad. The credibility of government is low. These are the things that the homegrown revolutionary is monitoring very closely. The FBI's attention must be focused on these various situations. If it weren't, the Bureau wouldn't be doing its job for the American people. The American people don't want to have to fool around with this kind of thing and worry about it. They don't want to have to worry about the security of their country. We must be able to find out what stage the revolution is in." The FBI was also aware of and disturbed by the Panthers' efforts to build community institutions. Indeed, the one survival program that seemed most laudatory, that of providing free breakfasts to children, was pinpointed by J. Edgar Hoover as the real long-range threat to American society. The ostensible reason for this was that children participating in the program were being propagandized, which simply meant they were taught ideas or an ideology that the FBI and Hoover disliked. Yet Hoover was not so naive as to believe an overt ideological war was any longer sufficient to garner the support or non-interference necessary for the Bureau to destroy the Panthers. A better rationale or cover for the public would have to be employed. This new cover for secret police operations was, as the Huston Plan suggested, a crusade against criminals and terrorists. Now the administration would fight crime, not ideologies. This technique for destroying controversial political organizations is, of course, not new. History should teach us that in times of high emotional excitement, minority parties and groups which advocate extremely unpopular social or governmental innovations will always be typed as criminal gangs, and attempts will always be made to drive them out. Internal FBI and other police agency documents make clear this objective of pinning the label criminal on the BPP and its leaders, and trying to link criminal activity to the party's efforts at getting support for various survival programs. A 1974 memorandum to the director of the FBI from the special agent in charge of the San Francisco office stated that the local FBI office has continued to follow Newton's and his associates' activities. Primarily, the office has been pursuing Hobbs Act and/or ITAR extortion cases on Newton and/or his associates. Although investigations to date, including contacts with other law enforcement agencies, has failed to develop information indicating that Newton and his associates are extorting funds from businesses, this office is of the opinion that Newton is or has been extorting funds from legitimate businesses. In addition to the contacts noted above, i.e., the Alcohol, Tobacco, Tax, and Firearms section of the Department of Justice in Oakland, California, the Oakland Police Department, the Berkeley Police Department, and various informants, the San Francisco office is selectively contacting pimps and narcotics pushers in the Oakland area in an attempt to develop further intelligence and positive information concerning possible federal violations on the part of Newton and his associates. This matter will continue to receive vigorous investigative attention. Interestingly, the Bureau and others seem to feel that any contribution from a business, whether considered legitimate or not, to the BPP survival programs could not be voluntary. It would have to come from extortion. Despite a failure to obtain any evidence of extortion, the Bureau continued to hold the opinion that it took place and to try to develop information for a Hobbs Act prosecution. In 1973, for instance, the Assistant Attorney General who figured prominently in the Watergate investigations, Henry E. Peterson, wrote the acting director of the FBI regarding Newton and the BPP. During the course of filming a movie in Oakland, California, Harvey Bernhard, a film director, was contacted by Huey Newton and Bobby Seale, who threatened to picket the filming site unless a $5,000 contribution was made to the Black Panther Party.
Top of the afternoon.
We note that Bernhard now states that while he gave $5,000 to Newton, he does not feel that he was extorted in any way and that he did not wish to testify. In light of this, and considering that Max Julian, an actor in the film, who was present when Bernhard met Newton, cannot recall any discussion of money or picketing, there is insufficient evidence to warrant prosecution and further investigation is not warranted. Extortion was not, of course, the only crime federal law enforcement agencies tried to pin on the BPP. In his book, Agency of Fear, Epstein described how high-level intelligence officers in the Nixon administration used a narcotics cover to expand domestic counterintelligence operations. Under the aegis of a war on heroin, a series of new offices were set up by executive order, such as the Office of National Narcotics Intelligence, which it was hoped would provide the president with investigative agencies having the potential to assume the functions of the plumbers on a far grander scale. According to the White House scenario, these new investigative functions would be legitimized by the need to eradicate the evil of drug addiction. The Nixon administration's exploitation of the narcotics menace to justify expansion of
Obsidian, this is actually the last chapter of this book. If you want, what I started to do, we're actually going dual live right now. So we're live on YouTube and on TikTok, AfroTaino 88. So you can actually go back and listen to all the books we stream on TikTok. Will be also streamed on YouTube. You just got to go in, not in the videos section in YouTube, but you got to go to the live streams category. So that way, that's where all the live streams is categorized at. But like I said, it goes for anybody. Like I said, I believe in social and free education, free housing, and free healthcare. And this is just my contribution to be able to open up opportunities of different, ways of thinking. So tap that screen, share this live. Knowledge is power.
Investigative agencies achieved extraordinary success. Between 1968 and 1974, the federal budget for enforcing narcotics laws rose from $3 million to more than $224 million, a 70-fold increase. And this in turn gave the president an opportunity to create a series of highly unorthodox federal agencies. The utility of a narcotics cover appears in numerous internal law enforcement documents concerning the BPP. Various agencies claim within their reports, in fact, to be investigating narcotics use by Panther leaders, especially Huey Newton, when, for example, Newton and some close friends took a one-week Caribbean cruise for a vacation. The FBI sent at least one clandestine agent who submitted the following report. An unidentified informant stated that his company has recently experienced a heavy increase in bookings aboard the Starward, the cruise ship taken by blacks, and he suspicions that this increase is due in part to the availability of narcotics at Port-au-Prince and Port Antonio. He stated that his suspicions have been buttressed by the recent confiscation of several pieces of luggage filled with narcotics from a Starward passenger. Inasmuch as reliable sources have identified Newton as a user of cocaine, and he is possibly the user of other narcotics, will alert customs personnel to be on the lookout for narcotics in the possession of Newton and any of his party upon their return to Miami.
You see how dirty they play?
Not content merely to alert customs, the FBI noted that the information has been disseminated to State Department and CIA. Copies of attached being furnished to the Department, Internal Security and General Crime Section, and Secret Service. Indeed, in April 1973, the FBI requested that all San Francisco agents be aware of either the purchase or use of cocaine by Huey Newton. Any information obtained in this regard should be immediately furnished to both the OPD, Oakland Police Department, and the appropriate federal narcotics agency.
Yo, really quick, to keep the live safe and secure, TikTok has been on its bullshit. So just do me a favor. Anything that seems like, that TikTok hit me for, just throw F1s in the comments. At this point, I don't even care if it's for every little stupid nonsense thing. Just keep the live safe and secure. Tap the screen, share this live. Let's keep this live secure because TikTok has been putting me on timeout left and right. I'm tired of being in the corner.
6 months later, the Bureau seemed less interested in Newton's possible use of cocaine than they were about narcotics dealers he might have been hitting up for contributions to community survival programs. Source reports from contacts with various and unidentified Negro dope dealers that the big-time dope dealers in the Berkeley and Oakland area are out to get Huey Newton. Source reports that Huey is apparently ripping off certain dealers, pimps, and whores for large amounts of money, and the talk is that they are going to get Huey. Source was instructed to determine some hard facts concerning these rumors and to report same immediately. By 1973, this process of employing the narcotics and crime covers reached its climax with the creation of a new intelligence super agency, the Drug Enforcement Agency. At the time of its formation, the DEA employed more than 4,000 agents and analysts, including some 53 former or detached CIA agents and a dozen counterintelligence experts from the military or other intelligence agencies. The DEA had the authority to request wiretaps and no-knock warrants and to submit targets to the Internal Revenue Service. With its contingent of former CIA and counterintelligence agents, it had the talent to enter residences surreptitiously, distribute black or misleading information, plant phony evidence, and conduct even more extreme clandestine assignments. The origin of DEA and its intended purpose are explained by Epstein as follows. According to those familiar with the plan, G. Gordon Liddy proposed to detach agents and specialists who could be relied upon by the White House from the BNDD, Bureau of Narcotics and Dangerous Drugs, the IRS, the Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms Division, and the Bureau of Customs. This new office would operate directly out of the Executive Office of the President. The beauty of the Liddy plan was its simplicity. It did not even need approval from Congress. The President could create such an office by executive decree and order all other agencies of the government to cooperate by supplying liaisons and agents. Congress would not even have to appropriate funds, according to those familiar with the Liddy plan, the Law Enforcement Assistant Administration, LEAA, which was located in John Mitchell's Department of Justice, could funnel monies via local police departments to finance these new strike forces. The new office would have wiretappers from the BNDD, customs agents with their unique search authority, IRS agents who could feed the names of suspects into the IRS's Target Selection Committee for a grueling audit, and CIA agents for the more extraordinary missions. In addition, since it would control grants from LEAA, this new office could mobilize support from state and local police forces in areas in which it desired to operate. The most important feature of the Liddy plan, however, was that the White House agents would act under the cloak of combating the drug menace. Since public fears were being excited about this deadly threat to the children of American citizens and their property, few would oppose vigorous measures even if its agents were occasionally caught in such excesses as placing an unauthorized wiretap. On the contrary, if the dread of drugs could be maintained, the public, Congress, and the press would probably applaud such determined actions. Krog and the White House strategists immediately saw the advantages to having the new office operate its agents under the emblem of a heroin crusade, and Liddy's option paper, much modified in form to remove any embarrassing illegalities, was sent to the President with the recommendations of Krog and Ehrlichman. Finally, in December 1971, the President ordered Ehrlichman and Krog to create the permanent White House-controlled investigative unit envisioned in the option paper drawn up by Liddy. The new unit was to be known as the Office of Drug Abuse Law Enforcement.
Let's tap it up.
On January 28, 1972, the Office of Drug Abuse Law Enforcement, ODALE, the permanent investigative force which ostensibly would operate against narcotics traffickers, was officially created by an executive order of the President. Since there was virtually no precedent for an agency like the Office of Drug Abuse and Law Enforcement, ODALE Director Miles J. Ambrose had to proceed step by step in assembling his strike forces. The first step was to appoint regional directors who would superintend and select the federal agents and local police on each strike force in each of the 33 target cities he selected. 50 other lawyers, many of whom Ambrose knew personally, were deployed in instantly created field offices of the new organization. 400 investigators were requisitioned from the Bureau of Narcotics and Dangerous Drugs and the Bureau of Customs, and Ambrose requested more than 100 liaisons from the Internal Revenue Service, as well as specialists from other agencies of the government. This was all accomplished during the first 30 days of existence of this new office,
Listen
in
up,
what
listen
Ambrose
up.
himself referred to as a monumental feat or organization. The new strike forces had little resemblance to more conventional law enforcement forces. These highly unorthodox units, which were being controlled from the White House through the President's special consultant Miles Ambrose, included not only trained narcotics and customs officers, but also immigration and naturalization service officers, alcohol, tobacco, and firearms control agents, probation officers, state troopers, and local police officers. With the authority of court-authorized no-knock warrants and wiretaps, they could strike at will in any of the target cities and against virtually anyone selected as a target. By March 1972, the strike forces had become operational. There was some resistance to Law Enforcement Assistance Administration officials to using LEAA money to finance ODALE operations. They argued that Congress never intended for LEAA grants to be used to bypass the appropriations process.
Now, in the comments, yeah, I appreciate you. Those are actually, these two are actually some of my original art pieces, stuff that I do digitally. But yeah, that's Schomburg and that's my little cookie. I know people critique me because they be like, he's supposed to be brown. Why do you have him green? It's art, guys. It's just art.
So, with White House assistance, the new office established a series of local organizations with such names as Research Associates, through which grants could be made by LEAA. The money was then channeled back to selected strike forces, with these organizations acting in effect as money conduits. The California conduit for these laundered funds was the Organized Crime and Criminal Intelligence Branch, OCCIB, of the State Department of Justice, which had already been set up in 1970 by California Attorney General Evel Younger.
Yo, really quick, everybody on TikTok, don't forget we're live streaming on YouTube as well. So if you came in the middle or you want to be able to catch the rest of the book, this is the final chapter. We have about 37 minutes and 45 seconds left of this chapter, and I'll probably let the last 30 minutes of the it said the introduction. I don't know why it's an introduction at the end. It should be the forwarding, but nevertheless, it's about 30 minutes. So keep tapping the screen, keep sharing this live. Go follow AfroTaino 88 on YouTube because we are streaming on TikTok and YouTube. Appreciate everybody. Yeah, this is actually the Huey P. Newton Reader. The book is actually right above my head. This is not a poster. This is actually the book cover right here. What we're listening to is through audio. For those on YouTube, I can't see what I see on TikTok, but I have the silhouette of the book cover on top of my imagery. That's what I'm pointing out to the people. Tap the screen, share this live. Let's keep it going.
Report circulated by the OCCIB in 1972 identified
the book is not about Huey. It's actually Huey's, like Huey wrote this. This is his book where he wrote his thoughts, different point in times throughout his journey of the Panthers. So that's why it's called the Huey P. Newton Reader. But like I said, this is the last chapter. You can catch the rest of the chapters on the YouTube. Don't look in the video section. Look in the live stream section.
Its prime targets the Black Panther Party. The creation of a new super agency to direct the counterintelligence activities against the BPP and other dissident groups was an indication of how badly the federal government wanted to destroy the Panthers. The successful extent of coordination between law enforcement agencies intent on getting the BPP is not yet clear, largely because documents showing this direction have yet to be discovered. Still, the general method of operation described by Epstein appears to have been employed against the party, at least if one focuses on just 3 agencies for which some documented information is available: the FBI, IRS, and CIA. Within 1 year of the formation of the party, the FBI formed a special counterintelligence program dubbed COINTELPRO. The purpose of this program was, in the FBI's own words, to expose, disrupt, misdirect, discredit, or otherwise neutralize the activities of the Black nationalists.
Now, if you go maybe 20, 30 years prior to, what set the foundation for what we know to be the COINTELPRO files is also what the United States were doing abroad with things such as like the carpetas, right? Where they were doing the same exact strategy, the same exact methods that he just broke down that was directed towards the Black community. They was also doing these actions in other places like Puerto Rico. And I'm pretty sure other U.S. territories at the time that we haven't spoken about or come across yet. But again, this is why the Freedom of Information Act is very important, because it tells us actually what happened and we don't have to interpretate what happened.
A specific purpose of COINTELPRO was to prevent the rise of a messiah, a charismatic black leader who might unify and electrify black people. Martin Luther King Jr. was named as a potential messiah in the FBI's own secret memorandum establishing COINTELPRO. But after the assassination of King in 1968, the FBI shifted its focus to the party and its leadership, particularly Huey P. Newton. J. Edgar Hoover, then director of the FBI, publicly stated that the party constituted the greatest threat to the internal security of the country of any organization. Of the 295 documented actions taken by COINTELPRO alone to disrupt black groups, 233, or 79%, were specifically directed toward destruction of the party. Over $100 million of taxpayers' money was expended for COINTELPRO. Over $7 million of it allocated for 1976 alone to pay off informants and provocateurs.
Now imagine if you would have took that money and actually gave the community what they was asking for. Resources. Because that's what the Panthers were providing the communities that the government refused to even help. So imagine the hypocrisy.
Twice the amount allocated in the same period by the FBI to pay organized crime informants. Indeed, while COINTELPRO ostensibly targeted 5 domestic organizations, the Communist Party, the Socialist Workers' Party, white hate groups, black nationalist hate groups, example, the Panthers, and the...
But not for nothing, what they deem all these different kind of groups, they're created and they're formed from the conditions of which they live in. Like that's what the government refuses to understand, and the conditions that they're brought up in and they're forced to live in is the conditions that the government's created. So this is what I'm saying. It's a contradiction for you to be able to invest on combating something that you created from the beginning without addressing the issues that you created to even start this whole shit off. You get what I'm saying?
It was blacks, and the Panthers in particular, who received the brunt of the damage. As the Senate Select Committee to Study Governmental Operations found, the white hate COINTELPRO also used comparatively few techniques which carried a risk of serious physical, emotional, or economic damage to the targets, while the black nationalist COINTELPRO used such techniques extensively. The vast arsenal of techniques employed by the Bureau against the BPP were tried and tested over the years in foreign espionage. As William C. Sullivan, former assistant to the director, stated, "This is a rough, tough, dirty business and dangerous. It was dangerous at times. No holds were barred. We have used these techniques against Soviet agents. They have used them against us. The same methods were brought home against any organization against which we were targeted. We did not differentiate. This is a rough, tough business." Specifically, the FBI engaged in or encouraged a variety of actions intended to cause, and in fact causing, deaths of BPP members, loss of membership and community support, draining of revenues from the party, false arrests of members and supporters, and defamatory discrediting of constructive party programs and leaders. What follows is an illustrative highlighting of some of these unlawful actions undertaken by the Bureau against the BPP. A major goal of COINTELPRO was to sow dissension within the party. A 1970 memorandum from headquarters to the San Francisco field office of the FBI, for example, proposed a wide variety of alleged authentic police or FBI material could be carefully selected or prepared for furnishing to the Panthers. Reports, blind memoranda, LHMs, letterhead memoranda, and other alleged police or FBI documents could be prepared pinpointing Panthers as police or FBI informants. Ridiculing or discrediting Panther leaders through their ineptness or personal escapades. Espousing personal philosophies and promoting factionalism among BPP members. Indicating electronic coverage where none exists. Outlining fictitious plans for police raids or other counteractions. Revealing misuse or misappropriation of Panther funds. Pointing out instances of political disruptive material and disinformation, etc. The nature of the disruptive material and disinformation leaked would only be limited by the collection ability of your sources and the need to ensure the protection of their security. Effective implementation of this proposal could not help but disrupt and confuse Panther activities. Even if they were to suspect FBI or police involvement, they would be unable to ignore factual material brought to their attention through this channel. The operation would afford us a continuing means to furnish the Panther leadership true information which is to our interest that they know, and disinformation which, in their interest, they cannot ignore. Obviously, falsely labeling people as informants in any organization carries with it a serious potential risk to the reputation and, in some situations, safety of that person.
I just want to touch on that. Even having a lot of conversations with a lot of elders from whether the Black Panther Party or the Young Lords, and self-reflection is key, right? To make sure we don't repeat it or try to teach the next generation how not to do the mistakes that they've repeated. And one of the things that they stressed me about, right, was this thing about the COINTELPRO and ostracizing one another. And I was like, what do you mean by that? He was like, they were like, if you look through our newspapers, every time we had a discrepancy with a member or falling out, we always took it to the front lines and put them on blast. And it's because we genuinely thought that they was infiltrators, or they were sent to disrupt, or whatever the case may be, or maybe even certain times that certain dynamics were created to make them appear in that light, right? And I was like, yeah, like, I could get that part too. He's like, but what we didn't understand was how much influence the self-destruction of our communities that we participated in, because we may have thought about the greater good, about putting this out there, right? But without solid evidence, what we did was we persecuted a lot of innocent people. And what we did is that we didn't realize the effect to their families and the community that was going to have. Because it's not just removing you from the organization, but to be able to demonize an individual without having concrete evidence, that led to a lot of community shaming towards specific families within the community that was unnecessary. And again, that's not saying that people didn't have agendas or motives and people weren't COINTELPRO agents, but it's just to look at the nuances too before having concrete evidence. You just can't do things like that. And again, it's not for all circumstances and situations, but when they talk about self-reflection, that's one of the things that they thought they are aware that they wish they would have did a little bit more thinking and analyzing and investigating before crucifying one another. And excuse the language that I'm saying those words, but that's just the truth. But listening to what he's saying right now on how COINTELPRO set up a lot of these dynamics, and then listening to the elders and, putting the things together, it's easy to manipulate a group of people that's trying to do better, in such a tense environment, not understanding what direction can things be taken. The psychological warfare, I talk about that a lot.
This is especially true if the combined counterintelligence techniques employed convince the organization that their friends have been imprisoned or harmed because of the targeted informant. Fully aware of this obvious fact, the Bureau nonetheless rationalized the placing of snitch jackets on innocent people.
Listen to what I'm saying.
You have to.
And just to let everyone, this is the first time I'm listening to this book. I got Revolutionary Suicide. I've listened to that. I listened to a lot of books, but I haven't had the chance to listen to this. So I'm listening to with you guys for the first time. And listen to what I just said and listen to what he's saying. I'm gonna bring it back 30 seconds so that way I don't interrupt.
With it a serious potential risk to the reputation and, in some situations, safety of that person. This is especially true if the combined counterintelligence techniques employed convince the organization that their friends have been imprisoned or harmed because of the targeted informant. Fully aware of this obvious fact, the Bureau nonetheless rationalized the placing of snitch jackets on innocent people. You have to be able to make decisions, and I am sure that labeling somebody as an informant, that you'd want to make certain that it served a good purpose before you did it and not do it haphazardly. It is a serious thing. As far as I'm aware, in the black extremist area, by using that technique, no one was killed. I'm sure of that. When asked whether the absence of any death was the result of luck or planning, this same Bureau official, George C. Moore, then chief of the Racial Intelligence Section, answered, "Oh, it just happened that way, I'm sure." The certitude of Moore's assertion is unfortunately belied by the Bureau's own confidential memoranda, more than one of which claimed that the party murdered members it suspected of being police informants. Indeed, the FBI worked closely with the Connecticut authorities in trying to convict two party leaders, Bobby Seale and Erica Huggins, of conspiracy to murder Alec Rackley,
F1.
an alleged informant. Seale and Huggins were not convicted, but the government's chief witness against them, the person who admittedly participated in Rackley's killing, appears from facts disclosed during and after the trial to have been an agent or informant. At the very least, this person's immediate enrollment in an Ivy League institution after the murder trial and subsequent employment by the administration of an Eastern university raises serious questions. In any event, the use of snitch jackets by the Bureau was widespread. The Senate Select Committee reports several instances of this technique without any apparent follow-up as to the consequences to the persons wrongly jacketed. Among the instances cited was one in San Diego, where a Black Panther leader was arrested by the local police with 4 other members of the BPP. The others were released, but the leader remained in custody. Headquarters authorized the field office to circulate the rumor that the leader is the last to be released because he is cooperating with and has made a deal with the Los Angeles Police Department to furnish them information concerning the BPP. The target of the first proposal then received an anonymous phone call stating that his own arrest was caused by a rival leader. Leaders of the BPP were frequently targeted as snitches or sellouts by the FBI in an effort to discredit or bring harm to them, especially Huey Newton. Upon Newton's release from prison in 1970, for instance, after a court of appeal reversed his conviction for manslaughter in the alleged shooting of an Oakland policeman, a memorandum from the FBI director instructed FBI field offices across the country to formulate COINTELPRO actions directed against Newton. FBI headquarters would direct the campaign. Its contours were defined as follows: to demythicize Newton, to hold him up to ridicule, and to tarnish his image among BPP members, can serve to weaken BPP solidarity and disrupt its revolutionary and violent aims. COINTELPRO actions should have 3-pronged effect of creating divisiveness among BPP members concerning Newton, treat him in a flippant and irreverent manner, and insinuate that he has been cooperating with police to gain his release from prison. Within a week, the New York FBI field office had drawn up 3 phony letters, which attempted to discredit Newton.
Really quick, we got about 27 minutes and 5 seconds on TikTok. Let's run it up to 20K. We at 16.3. Let's run it up to 20K. Let's end this chapter out with a bang. Like I said, I took a little long to actually finish this whole book. My schedule got a little crazy, but we actually here at the finish line. So let's end it out with a bang. Tap that screen, share this live. We got 27 minutes in this chapter.
To be mailed to the New York office of the Black Panther Party by the San Francisco FBI field office read as follows. Brothers, I am employed by the state of California and have been close to Huey Newton while he was in jail. Let me warn you that this pretty nigger may very well be working for Pig Reagan.
Yo, do me a favor, please. Let's keep the F1s locked and loaded. This is how I got clipped the other day. This is for educational purposes only. F1s locked and loaded, please.
I don't know why he was set free, but I am suspicious. I got this idea because he had privileges in jail like the trustees get. He had a lot of privacy most prisoners don't get. I don't think all his private meetings were for sex. I am suspicious of him. Don't tell Newton too much if he starts asking you questions. It may go right back to the pigs. Power to the people. FBI headquarters regarded this anonymous letter as excellent, but cautioned, take usual precautions to ensure letters cannot be traced to Bureau. Advise Bureau and interested offices of positive results achieved. The Philadelphia FBI field office prepared and sent to Newton a fictitious Black Panther Party directive, supposedly prepared by the Philadelphia Black Panther office, which questioned Newton's leadership abilities. Accompanying it was a cover letter purportedly from an anonymous party supporter accusing the Philadelphia chapter of slandering its leaders in private. FBI headquarters, in approving this operation, noted that prior COINTELPRO action, which anonymously advised the national headquarters that food, clothing, and drugs collected for BPP community programs were being stolen by BPP members, had resulted in criticism of the Philadelphia chapter by the national office, transfer of members, and the national office has even considered closing the Philadelphia chapter. The memorandum concluded, "We want to keep this dissension going." The Los Angeles FBI office suggested that a death threat against Newton be sent to Black Panther leader David Hilliard, purportedly from a contract killer.
Yeah, you see how dirty they're playing? You see all the little things that they're putting in play that's not even true? To be able to disrupt what the Panthers have going on, to be able to disrupt the relationships, the camaraderies, the alliances they have. What makes the Panthers, they're trying to delete that essence.
FBI headquarters stopped this action, however, in the belief that if Newton were to be murdered, then the letter might be traced to the Bureau by postal authorities.
F1.
When Angela Davis, then one of the FBI's 10 most wanted fugitives, was arrested in New York City in mid-October 1970 and charged with conspiracy in the Marin County Courthouse incident, the FBI falsely tried to cast Newton as the finger man. In view of the fact that there is suspicion in the Negro community that Davis was set up, NYO suggests that Huey Newton be cast in the light as fingerman. If such a ploy could be successfully carried out, it might result in disruption in the Black nationalist field, as well as divorcing BPP from CPUSA and militant New Left groups. One handwritten letter was sent to Ebony magazine by the Chicago FBI field office, mailed from a Negro as follows. Dear brothers and sisters, as of this writing, our lovely sister Angela languishes in jail, and her chances of freedom seem remote. She's got to pay the man, right? But the question I put to you is, who did the money pay? You know, and I know, the pigs can't come up with a black in a black community just by driving around the streets and hassling the brothers. I tell you that Sister Davis would still be free if her capture was left to the federal pigs alone. Of course, it was not that way at all. There was bread, lots of pure cash rye put into an eager black hand, which in turn twisted the knife of treachery in our sister's back. Now the big question is who? Who was the cat who dishonored his skin and took the 30 pieces of silver? Some of the West Coast cats are looking hard at Brother Newton. Shit, you say Huey would never sell out to pig country. He's a dedicated nationalist leader of the brothers and sisters and a cat with real soul. Maybe it's bullshit, but let's look at Huey a little closer. He gets sprung from a stiff rap in August. The man suddenly turns kind and sets our brother free. In that same month, Sister Angela is among the missing as the result of a frame the pigs laid on her. What did Huey give for the sunlight and flowers? Or better still, what did the man give sweet Huey? How come Huey's size 12 mouth has been zippered since our sister's bust? Nothing, he says. Absolutely nothing. Not one appeal for justice. No TV, no papers, no radio, no nothing. He got $5 grand, so the cats say. It's enough to make a man wonder. Wouldn't be surprised if Huey didn't split the scene soon. I, for one, will be most interested. A friend of Sister Angela. Another handwritten letter was mailed to the Village Voice newspaper by the New York FBI field office. Sister Angela is in jail. Poindexter is free. Huey Newton is free. David P. is a dumbhead and a hophead. Forget him. But Huey is smart. Gets along well with the man. The question is, did this cat bank 5 big bills lately as a gift from the federal pigs? Concerned brother. The Bureau did not miss any chance to further its disinformation campaign. Later, in the fall of 1970, the San Francisco FBI field office sent an unsigned...
Then we wonder why society is so easily manipulated with disinformation. Is because they waged this war, this psychological warfare on us so long ago that we don't realize how we assimilated and how we're quickly manipulated by what they tell us or what they want us to know. Like,
purportedly from a white revolutionary to Newton criticizing the party-sponsored Revolutionary People's Constitutional Convention. You, the letter concluded, must be held responsible for this fiasco, and it is due to your total incompetence for selecting stupid lazy niggas to do the job, and you and
F1 in the comments, F1 in the comments. Let's keep this live safe.
the whole party have set the revolution back 5 years. When the Howard University student newspaper printed a letter signed, Concerned Students of Howard University, which was critical of Huey Newton and the party, the San Francisco FBI field office mailed Xerox copies to 17 newspapers in Northern California. The letter had been prepared and sent to the student newspaper in the first place by the Washington, D.C. FBI field office. When Newton's conviction for allegedly shooting a policeman was reversed in 1970, FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover immediately requested official authorization from Attorney General John Mitchell for a microphone surveillance and a telephone surveillance at apartment 25A, 1200 Lakeshore, Oakland, Huey Newton's new address. Hoover considered it likely that high-level party conferences will be...
Right now, we're finishing off the Huey P. Newton reader. We actually at the last couple of minutes, like 20 minutes or so. If you want, you can always catch all the live streams also on YouTube, where it's archived in the live section, AfroTaino 88. So yeah, that's what we're going over right now.
This location, and he reminded Mitchell that existing telephone surveillance on certain Black Panther officers, all of which have been authorized by you, have provided extremely valuable information on Black Panther Party involvement in foreign matters and plans for violent acts against top officials of this country and foreign diplomatic personnel. The ending clause, clumsily tacked on the sentence, was the requisite national security justification for covert action. Hoover's request concluded with the observation that trespass will be involved with respect to the microphone surveillance. Mitchell approved the request, and San Francisco FBI agents paid the building engineer, Roger Duclos, to accompany them in breaking into Newton's apartment to install the microphone in the wall. But the FBI was not content with surveillance. On November 24, 1970, the San Francisco FBI field office proposed an additional COINTELPRO operation concerning Newton's new apartment. The field office proposed a media campaign which would characterize the apartment as a luxurious lakeshore penthouse, far more elegant than the ghetto-like BPP pads and community centers utilized by the party. However, the field office agreed to refrain presently from leaking this information to cooperative news sources because of a pending special investigative technique, i.e., the bug and wiretaps. Once the installation of the surveillance devices had been completed, the FBI gave the plush penthouse story to one of the Bureau's key media assets, reporter Ed Montgomery of the San Francisco Examiner. Shortly, Montgomery's FBI-furnished article was featured on the front page of the Examiner. Pleased with this quick success, the San Francisco field office mailed copies of the feature article anonymously to all BPP offices across the United States and to 3 BPP contacts in Europe. Additional copies were mailed to newspaper editors in all cities where the BPP was active. To bolster the innuendos of lavish living and misuse of party funds, the FBI sent a fictitious letter from a national Black Panther Party officer to party chapters in Baltimore, Boston, Chicago, Indianapolis, Los Angeles, New Haven, New York, Philadelphia, and Washington, D.C. The message, mailed from Oakland, read in part, Comrades, too many of your leaders have now turned this movement into something to line their own pockets and have little regard for the man on the street selling the Black Panther. Ask the members of your chapter coming to the National where the comrade commander and the chief of staff live. Huey Newton lives miles from another nigger, and you'll never
F1,
find him in
F1.
national headquarters. If you're lucky, you can see him buying drinks for white freaks in Oakland supper clubs. In addition, FBI headquarters formulated a COINTELPRO plan to embarrass BPP leader Huey Newton through use of a fictitious bank account, indicating misappropriations of BPP funds. This plan required that a fictitious bank account record be created in the name of Huey P. Newton through an appropriate bank which will cooperate with the Bureau confidentially. A photostat of a false ledger card could be prepared and mailed to national headquarters anonymously, along with an appropriate letter condemning Newton. The account should show regular, sizable deposits over a period of several years and have a sizable balance existing. Beginning April 1st, 1971, and for months thereafter, the FBI paid $540 per month for the rental of apartment 25B, 1200 Lakeshore, Oakland, California. In this apartment, adjacent to the one in which Newton was living, the FBI placed an undercover agent with instructions to keep Newton under physical surveillance, as well as monitoring the electronic eavesdropping devices. Subsequently, hardly a day passed when Newton was not followed or observed by a plainclothes agent on all of his travels to and from the apartment building. One of the undercover agents placed in apartment 25B was Don Roberto Stinnett, who was described in an FBI case report on Newton as involved with local drug traffic. Stinnett, who professed to be on parole from a California prison, remained in the apartment for several months while he spied on Newton, his associates, and guests. On November 18, 1972, Newton's wife, Gwen Fontaine Newton, discovered several men burglarizing and ransacking their apartment when she returned unexpectedly. After leaving the apartment with Huey, I returned with Huey's niece, Deborah, because I had forgotten something. I entered to find 3 men robbing the apartment. They held me at gunpoint. Their pistols had silencers on them. Huey's documents and other papers were strewn about on the floor. Files and records, along with clothes and heavy furniture, were taken by these men from the apartment, a closed, supposedly secure complex with a doorman and basement garage that could be entered only with the aid of an apartment-supplied electronic garage door opener. How and why did these men enter this complex, burglarize the penthouse apartment, and leave undetected with so much stolen property? The party believes that the stolen records and material were actually moved next door during the robbery to the apartment of the FBI agent or informant. Later, when it was convenient to go unnoticed, the materials were quietly but openly moved out in crates and boxes from an art exhibit supposedly held in this same agent's apartment. Literally no tactic was too bizarre, unconscionable, or extreme for government intelligence officials. On Saturday morning, February 18, 1973, at 5:30 a.m., a squad of Oakland police officers conducted a raid on the 25th floor of Huey Newton's apartment building. For cover, they had obtained a warrant authorized for night service for the arrest of Don Roberto Stinnett for unpaid traffic tickets. The police team proceeded to engage in a shootout with Stinnett, who was equipped with a semi-automatic rifle in the hall outside Newton's apartment. Newton refused to take the bait to open his door. Surprisingly, neither Stinnett nor police were injured. Later, the media reported the news of gunfire at the Swank apartment next door to Black Panther leader Huey Newton. But the press had missed what was perhaps the real story, that the police and undercover agent had staged the entire shootout in hopes that Newton could be drawn out of his apartment where he could be shot. It is not difficult to divine the intended effect of these FBI actions, or just why the Bureau felt they might, through the aggregate of activity, neutralize the party's founder. In the words of one observer, "Do you remember what it is like to have one friend mad at you, against you, or even an enemy, or someone out to get you, as may have happened occasionally when you were a kid? But how many of us have this experience now? Occasionally someone may be after our job or promotion, but not our life or our freedom. We cannot even imagine what it is like to have one or all of the major investigatory agencies against us, to have phones always tapped, to have no one able to know you without that person also becoming a public enemy.
Listen.
To be watched for minute traffic violations every time you drive to the store. To be under constant observation. To never know who might be a paid informer or a fake next-door neighbor.
Facts.
And in the midst of this, to have a developing community strained by the very pressures around you, around your friends, around a vision of the people which is unbearable to our present society. In March 1970, the FBI zeroed in on Eldridge Cleaver, then in exile in Algiers after he had been told to leave Cuba. The Bureau learned that the high-strung Cleaver had accepted as bona fide a fictitious letter stating that BPP leaders in California were seeking to undercut his influence. For the next year, FBI field offices supplied Cleaver with a steady stream of messages containing erroneous information about various Black Panther Party leaders and activities, especially about Huey Newton. After his release from prison in August 1970, Cleaver led a Black Panther Party-sponsored delegation of American activists to North Korea and North Vietnam. After the conclusion of the tour, the Los Angeles FBI field office was asked to prepare an anonymous letter to Cleaver, criticizing Newton for not aggressively obtaining BPP press coverage of the BPP's sponsorship of the trip. In December 1970, with the adoption of the Key Black Extremist Program, the FBI increased its COINTELPRO efforts to turn Cleaver against Newton. The Bureau issued instructions to write numerous letters to Cleaver criticizing Newton for his lack of leadership. It is felt that if Cleaver received a sufficient number of complaints regarding Newton, it might create dissension that later could be more fully exploited. One letter to Cleaver, written to appear as if it had come from Connie Matthews, then Newton's personal secretary, read in part, "I know you have not been told what has been happening lately. Things around headquarters are dreadfully disorganized with the comrade commander not making proper decisions. The newspaper is in a shambles. No one knows who is in charge. The Foreign Department gets no support. Brothers and sisters are accused of all sorts of things. I am disturbed because I myself do not know which way to turn. If only you were here to inject some strength into the movement or to give some advice. One of two steps must be taken soon, and both are drastic. We must either get rid of the Supreme Commander or get rid of the disloyal members. Huey is really all we have right now, and we can't let him down, regardless of how poorly he is acting, unless you feel otherwise." More flattery came from Algonquin J. Fuller, Youth Against War and Fascism, New York, supposedly one of Cleaver's white admirers. "Let me tell you what has happened to our brothers in the party since you have left, and that pretty nigger Newton in his funky clothes has been
F1 in the comments, F1 in the comments.
running things. Brother Eldridge, to me as an outsider but one who believes in the revolution, it seems that the Panthers need a leader in America who will bring the party back to the people. Brother Newton has failed you and the party. The Panthers do not need a daytime revolutionary, a nighttime partygoer, and African fashion model as a leader. They need the leadership which only you can supply." The New York FBI field office mailed another fictitious letter to Cleaver, supposedly from the New York Panther 21, in order to further aggravate the strained relationship between Newton and Cleaver. "As you are aware, we of the Panther 21 have always been loyal to the party and continue to feel a close allegiance to you and the ideology of the party, which has been developed mainly through your efforts. We know that you have never let us down and have always inspired us through your participation in the Vanguard Party. As the leading theoretician of the party's philosophy and as brother among brother, we urge you to make your influence felt. We think that the Rage, i.e. Cleaver, is the only person strong enough to pull this factionalized party back together. You are our remaining hope in our struggle to fight oppression within and without the party." By late January 1971, The Bureau's COINTELPRO campaign had begun to achieve favorable results. Cleaver was responding to the prompting of the disinformation campaign. One Bureau memorandum reported that Cleaver considered one of the fictitious letters to contain good information about the party. Another COINTELPRO report ebulliently noted that Cleaver has never previously disclosed to BPP officials the receipt of prior COINTELPRO letters. Now was the time for the Bureau to more fully exploit the dissension it had fostered. FBI headquarters directed the field office to intensify the campaign against the Black Panther Party. The present chaotic situation within the BPP must be exploited, and recipients must maintain the present high level of counterintelligence activity. You should each give this matter priority attention and immediately furnish Bureau recommendations designated to further aggravate the dissension within BPP leadership. On February 2, 1971, FBI headquarters directed each of 29 field offices to submit within 8 days a proposal to disrupt local Black Panther Party chapters and the party's national headquarters in Oakland. The Bureau Command believed its 4-year-long war against Huey Newton and the Black Panther Party was nearing victory. The situation, field office supervisors were reminded, offers an exceptional opportunity to further disrupt, aggravate, and possibly neutralize this organization through counterintelligence. In light of above developments, this program has been intensified, and selected offices should increase measurably the pressure on the BPP and its leaders. For 3 solid weeks, a barrage of anonymous letters flowed from FBI field offices in response to the urging from FBI headquarters. The messages became more and more vicious. On February 19, 1971, a false letter, allegedly from a Black Panther Party member in the Bay Area, was mailed to Don Cox, Cleaver's companion in Algiers. The letter intimated that the recent disappearance and presumed death of Black Panther leader Fred Bennett was the result of party factionalism. On February 24th, an urgent teletype message from the FBI director authorized the most daring step in the campaign: a falsified message to Cleaver from a member of the party's Central Committee. A letter over the forged signature of Elbert "Big Man" Howard, editor of the Black Panther newspaper, told Cleaver, "Eldridge, John Seale told me Huey talked to you Friday and what he had to say. I am disgusted with things here and the fact that you are being ignored. I am loyal to the party, and it makes me mad to learn that Huey now has to lie to you. I am referring to his fancy apartment, which he refers to as the throne. I think you should know that he picks the place out himself, not the Central Committee, and the high rent is from party funds and not paid by anyone else. Many of the others are upset about this waste of money. It is needed for other party work here and also in Algeria. It seems the least Huey could do is furnish you the money and live with the rest of us. Since Huey will lie to you about this, you can see how it is with him. You would be amazed at what is actually happening. I wish there was some way I could get in touch with you, but in view of Huey's orders, it is not possible. You should really know what's happening and statements made about you. I can't risk a call as it would mean certain expulsion. You should think a great deal before sending Kathleen. If I could talk to you, I could tell you why I don't think you should. Big Man." Eldridge Cleaver apparently believed the letter to be legitimate. Huey Newton telephoned Algiers to ask Cleaver to participate in a long-distance telephone hookup on a San Francisco television talk show. Cleaver agreed to the plan. 3 hours later, when the TV station's call to Algiers went through, Cleaver launched into a furious criticism of the Black Panther Party Central Committee and demanded that Panther Chief of Staff David Hilliard be removed from his post, and attacked the breakfast program as reformist. Cleaver had regained his place in the spotlight, if only for a moment. When the Central Committee expelled him from the Black Panther Party for his behavior, Cleaver announced that the real Black Panther Party would therefore be directed from Algiers. Like an ultra-left sorcerer's apprentice with a gift of verbal magic, Cleaver frenetically tried to coalesce his own followers with transatlantic exhortations for immediate guerrilla warfare. FBI officials were elated. In mid-March, FBI headquarters declared its COINTELPRO operation aimed at aggravating dissension between Newton and Cleaver a success. New instructions for the field offices were promulgated. Since the differences between Newton and Cleaver now appear to be irreconcilable, no further counterintelligence activity in this regard will be undertaken at this time, and now new targets must be established. David Hilliard and Egbert Big Man Howard of National Headquarters and Bob Rush of Chicago BP Chapter are likely future targets. Hilliard's key position at National Headquarters makes him an outstanding target. Howard and Rush are also key Panther functionaries, making them prime targets.
Let's listen to the forward really quick and let's see what happens. Let me see.
Huey P. Newton and the Black Panther Party he created have passed out of existence, as all things do. Like all things, they leave behind memories. Those private sensory recollections, sadly destined to be weaned out of history with each new generation. Like some, they leave behind certain tangible references to lives lived and life works. But in kinship with those rare few whose footprints remain in defiance of time, they leave a legacy, a humane legacy, that is a beacon from the past for those of us searching still to cross the abyss of human barbarity that seems written into eternity. I came to know and embrace the best of Huey Newton, first as a Black Panther Party youth member, and later as his wife, during the last 5 years of his life. In that, I am a witness to the enlightened dreams, as well as the torture of the dreamer. I came to know that he was the truest revolutionary, seeking always to bring harmony between the nature of things and the state of things, to transform dark into light, challenge fear and hate with courage and love. The Huey P. Newton Reader is the first summation of this revolutionary life told in Huey's own words. From this definitive collection of writings, readers will discover, perhaps for the first time, the astonishing breadth of Huey's thoughts and actions, for history is a witness to the fact that he acted on his vision by inventing an instrument for freedom and enlightenment called the Black Panther Party. This was his essence and his life's work, left behind as his personal legacy. As such, the Black Panther Party has left a living legacy, a work begun but left undone, a foundation laid, a seed sown, whose flowers brighten the barren fields today. Frederica Newton, President, the Dr. Huey P. Newton Foundation, 2002.
And that is a wrap, y'all. We finally got through it. I know my schedule was crazy and it took forever to get to this point, but salute to everybody in the live today. We finally finished the book. I recommend, listen, go pick up your copy, go order it on Audible, go re-listen to it. If not, go onto YouTube. We got it up there, live stream. You just got to listen to it in portions. With that being said, I want to play one of my poems for you guys. Let's get to it. Yo, what the fuck is going on? Are we really blinded by this mirage of propaganda? Do we really not see that the system has us going against each other and fighting back and forth while they control us like puppets? Do we not see that we're in a state of no peace? But to have peace is to have understanding, and the understanding we seek seems so far away in a society so divided. We no longer need a colonizer to do the work of a colonizer, tearing each other down, discrediting each other's historical struggle, causing psychological and physical warfare. Like that doesn't fall right into the hands of the man that created the system we've assimilated so perfectly into. I refuse. I refuse to participate, understanding that we were all products of survival in a race of world domination and global power. But the hardest thing to admit is that we were victims and we are products of survival. And understanding that struggle is what unifies us. But somehow the conversations are all around who's black, who's not, who's Latino, who's not, who's native, who's not, whose land, your land, my land, her land, but no plan? God damn. This shit sounds like a scam to distract us from the plan at hand, planned by the man who created the system we've assimilated into. So are we really far off from where they want us to be? Fighting and bickering like it's the new TV for public consumption of the destruction of the oppressed? Really? We've allowed this dark cloud to consume us, a full eclipse. It's like Moondog Punisher snatched the sun and blew it out with a kiss, leaving us in capital punishment's grip, the devil's pit, the land of chaos, self-destruction, and no peace. Never forget. That's just a little something I've been working on. You know what? I started the live with this, but I wanna end it with this as well. My brother Manny, he got a banger here, and I really like this song. You can go look him up on Instagram, Manny Blessum 216, Manny _bless _em _216. This is my joint right here. Tap it up, tap it up.
Desde hace tiempo espero.
I'm a Puerto Rican from the diaspora. I wanna see my island free, not now, but ahora. My name rings bells from here to Yabacoa. I'm from Cleveland where it gets colder than Minnesota. This ain't no novella, my life is like a movie. I'm a revolutionary like my brother Subi. We do this for la patria, race against la máquina. Guns sound like reggaeton, the way it be like rakata. It's Maniche, I'm here to stay. When it comes to my people, I don't play. From day to night, night to day. It's in my veins, I got the blood of a slave. We freedom fighting all the way to the grave. I'm a young lord, Balante it's a slogan. Even a blind man can see that I am chosen. You can hate, but you will never ever stop my motion.
Tap it up, tap it up, tap it up, tap it up. Tap it up, tap it up, tap it up. He not done.
They say we come from garbage, that's the farthest from the truth. They don't have no clue, Tony Hickler, fuck you. Fuck you too if you believe that dumb shit. God sent me here to put the matrix in a glitch. Standing on the mound, I ain't giving up no hits. Leader of my team, no hitters when I pitch. And when I'm up the bat, guarantee I when I miss. Like number 21, I was born for this shit.
Oír tu voz, sentir tu amor. Desde hace tiempo espero yo.
I'm telling you, he got a banger right here. That's my opinion. This is fire. Salute to Manny, man. Salute to my brother Manny in Cleveland.
Screaming free Puerto Rock. That shit'll never stop. Screaming free Puerto Rock. Till my casket drop. The revolution now, you either ready or you not. I'm running to the front lines. I wanna pick my spot. I wanna stand for something. I don't wanna sit and watch. It's time to free our people from these chains and these locks. It's time to free our minds and stop thinking in a box. You with us or against us. If you not, then you ops. Uncle Sam and my Theo, he gon' go home. Take Luma with you. Leave us alone. Get the fuck out and don't come back. And take Mr. Jones 'cause he don't know how to act. Fuck Jake Paul, you go run and tell that. He's only on an island so he don't pay tax. We done being colonized, that's just facts. You part of the problem if you think I should relax.
Bars, bars, bars. My brother talking about something. My brother talking about something. My brother Manny Che, you can find him on Instagram, Manny _bless _em _216. He does videography. If you guys seen the video that I did with my poetry, which I have on TikTok, I think it's pinned. When I did the Puerto Rican resurrection, he actually did the the editing and all of that. He does videography, he does photography work. He works with kids, teaching them videography. He's actually the chairman of the Cleveland chapter of the Young Lords, and yeah, he's been putting some of his thoughts on paper and doing it up. I really got to give it to him. We actually thinking about, well, not thinking about, we're gonna make it happen. We're gonna collaborate on like, I guess like a mixtape or so, something like that. Something to put out some knowledge of self content out there, where he's gonna be able to put out some of these songs and follow up in between the songs. We probably have my poetry, so some spoken words mixed with a little, conscious rap. So that's what we working on top of me working on the books. And don't forget, everybody, if you could do me a favor, I'm looking for all the help and support I can get. Go check out the GoFundMe. If you can't contribute, just do me a favor. Share my GoFundMe. I'm really trying to get these books out. I'm trying to get it out before Christmas. But if I can't, right after Christmas, going into the New Year's, the Young Lord community stories are fully done. They're edited, ready to be printed out, ready to do all the legal process to be able to get it on the market for you guys. And I appreciate everybody who would help and participate in that. Let me end out my live on YouTube so that way I can still chat on TikTok. Give me a second.